안녕하세요 여러분, 선현우입니다. Hello everybody, Hyunwoo here from TalkToMeInKorean.com. Today let's talk about how 반말 works. So what exactly is 반말? It basically refers to talking casually or informally among close friends or to younger people. But it's a bit more complicated than just that, so many people tend to make mistakes when they try to use 반말. So today I'm going to attempt to explain how 반말 works in detail. 반말 literally means half language, and it refers to how you drop the polite sentence endings like 요, or 니다 or 니까, therefore making the sentences relatively shorter, hence the term 반말. Basically, you cannot use 반말 to somebody who's older than you, higher than you in social status, or someone you do not know very well. But as an exception, if it's among family members, relatives, or in romantic relationships, it is common to see people using 반말 even to people who are older than them. But unless it's between family members, you need the other person's permission before you can use 반말 to him or her. And also, ironically, you cannot ask for the permission, like, can I use 반말 to you? If you are the younger one. If you are the younger one, you just have to wait until the older person to tell you to start using 반말 to them. Now, if it's between two or more people who are the same age, it is relatively easy and safe for one person to say, shall we all just use 반말? By saying, 우리 말 놓을까? In Korean. And even if the other person is younger than you, it doesn't mean that you can just start using 반말 to them if you don't know them really well. But there's an exception. If you are a student in elementary school, middle school, or high school, among students who attend the same school, it is common to see older students use 반말 to younger students without any permission. But small children like kindergartners or elementary school students, they tend to use 반말 even to older students, probably because they are still young and they're used to just using 반말 to everybody, including their parents. Well, they're just being children. Now, when you're in college, older students generally use 반말 to younger students. But if they are not in the same major department or activity club like 동아리s, since they are practically strangers, they often use 존댓말 to each other because they're both adults and both worth some respect. So, although 반말 is basically based on age, depending on the environment, sometimes other factors play a more important role. For example, in the Korean military, no matter how old you are, if your rank is lower than someone, you have to use 존댓말 to that person, and that person can use 반말 to you. So for me, personally, I did my military service about a year later than average, so all my seniors were younger than me, but I still used 존댓말. I had to use 존댓말 to them, right? But as they were leaving, as they were being discharged from the service, they all called me 형 because I was the older one. Also, let's say person A has a younger sister, B, and B gets married to C. But C is older than A. Even though C is older than A can use 반말 to C, and C should use 존댓말 to A because C is at a lower rank in the family tree. So these are some exceptions. So when you meet someone for the first time, if you're just meeting for work and you are both adults, you don't even have to ask how old each other is. You just have to use 존댓말 and you can continue using 존댓말 to each other forever. But if there's more work, you meet up more often, and sometimes you eat together and you get to know each other a little better through more personal conversations, one of the two people might or will usually bring up the topic of age and suggest using 반말. If the two people are in agreement, the older person will start using 반말 to the younger person. But if the person who suggested using 반말 was the older person, and the younger person doesn't really feel comfortable about that, there's still no nice way for the younger person to say, no, you can't use 반말 to me. So they end up saying, yes, okay, you can go ahead. But that can make the relationship a bit awkward from then on. So if you don't feel very comfortable about how close you are with a certain person, even if you are sure that you are the older one, it is a good idea to just stick to using 존댓말. If you meet somebody in a more casual occasion and not for work, using 반말 can happen more easily. And if two people become really close and the older person is cool with the younger person using 반말 to him or her, the younger one can use and may use 반말 and drop all the 요 or 니다 at sentence endings. But even in that case, they should still not call the older person by their first name like 현우야, 경화야, or 석진아. You need to still use words like 형, 오빠, 누나, 언니, etc. Meanwhile, if you're talking to yourself or writing in your journal or taking notes, you don't have to use 존댓말 to yourself, so you use 반말. So many Facebook status updates and tweets are in 반말 if they are not geared toward specific people. You can also use 반말 when you are just showing exclamation or realization. So even if you're in front of somebody older than you, you can say things like 아, 여기가 아니네 or 이거 뭐지? Which are 반말 sentences, but okay, because you're basically talking to yourself if you do so in a way that the other person doesn't misunderstand and think that you're talking to them. Okay, we're almost done, but here's one interesting thing. You will sometimes see some people speaking in 존댓말 with all of their sentences, but refusing to use 저는 or 제가 to mean I. Instead, they will start their sentences with 나는 or 내가 to mean I and end their sentences with 요 or 니다. This is especially common among older people, and the main reason behind this is that they will be polite with you, they'll give it to you, but then they don't want to be so polite as to lower themselves by saying 저는. Well, don't get me wrong, this is not them being rude, but their subconscious taking over and saving a little bit of that politeness. Lastly, how about when you're talking to your pets? Yes, you guessed it right. You don't use 존댓말, but 반말 like 앉아 or 이리 와 instead of 앉으세요 or 이리 오세요. So it's time to sum up. Basically, if two people use 존댓말 to each other forever, there will be no misunderstandings, no mistakes. But as they become closer friends, either just one of them or both of them mutually will use 반말 because that feels more intimate and friendly. We've talked about exceptions and some other things to consider through this video, but the most important thing to remember is that you need to have the other person's agreement, either through clear verbal agreement or silent contextual clues. On the internet, since people can't see each other's face, most bad and malicious comments are left in 반말 because people who leave hateful comments just don't care enough, while positive feedback and productive criticisms are usually expressed in 존댓말. So that's it, everybody, for this lesson about 반말. Usually, the best way to learn to say something properly is through a lot of practice and making a lot of mistakes. But with 존댓말 and 반말, if you make a mistake, even if it's just one mistake, it can really hurt somebody's feelings. So be careful and do a lot of observation. And if you need to check again, please feel free to come back to this video at any time and leave us comments if you have any questions. 감사합니다. Bye bye.